I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Good, good. Exciting first day Comic-Con. We're
I
back.
know.
Right?
Oh, it is the first day. That's right, of
It
course.
is.
I forgot it was Thursday.
I know. I've been
I
doing
can't keep
that
track
all
anymore.
day. Like
Yeah.
all day. Just have no idea what day it is. So I heard you mention over there that you did watch Bridgerton.
Oh, yes.
I watched the first 6 episodes of this, and I thought immediate to myself, this is very Bridgerton-esque in terms of the lavish parties, the Victorian-esque design, the dress, even the royal court and the queen especially, very much rang Bridgerton to me. So I was wondering, with respects to Bridgerton, is that also why you decided to go with colorblind casting?
No, I mean, I was thrilled with what Bridgerton did with their casting. Our approach was just full inclusivity, not paying attention to, what the culture in the books, because if we limited ourselves to Slavic characters, we were kind of with a show of white folks.
Yeah. I mean, the movie is all white.
Yeah, and it's just we really. I mean, I have learned a lot over the years about representation in shows, and when you start with Vampire Diaries, which had very little, and you get all the way to Legacies, which was really largely a show with most of the leads were people of color. To me, this is just the next step in that trajectory. Really, really wanting to, have everybody represented, and then not just in a token way.
Yeah, it's pleasantly evolved.
Yeah,
I will say that.
Yeah,
it's
thank
really
you.
nice to see, because I did watch Vampire Diaries, and I did notice that. I was like, Vampire Diaries is because I think part of the problem is that everybody thinks vampire immediately pale. Gotta be white.
Yeah,
and then it goes from there, and it just cascades into just this, oh my god.
And people get very attached to an image that they have in their head, but what they were realizing is the image they have in their head is an image that looks like themselves,
right.
And
exactly.
so other people want that experience too, and so that was really was really the biggest part, and I was really proud that at the end of it all, we picked the best people for the parts and ended up with 7 out of 10 characters of color, which was not it wasn't like we set out with a
right,
a
you
statistic.
didn't go through a list.
Yeah, we hired the people we wanted to hire, and it turned out in our favor really nicely.
Yeah, it worked really nicely. The only funny one is Dimitri, because he is not in any way Russian.
I know, but so,
he's Irish or Scottish or something.
I couldn't in this day and age think of the guy in the long duster with the long hair and the ponytail and the thick Russian accent being sexy to me. So no offense to
sexy evolves.
Yeah,
I don't blame you.
Yeah,
it's a new age. Do you wanna?
Yeah. So going off of what you were saying about how you guys mentioned vampires, you think pale, you guys are going in a more diverse route, which is incredible. Just in general, a lot of the projects you've worked on have supernatural elements. Mm-hmm. You've tackled vampires in a lot of different ways. So how do you kind of, keep that fresh for yourself, but also kind of keep evolving the lore of vampires throughout the decades?
This show is particularly easy to take on because the vampire world build is so unique to the books, and she borrowed from Romanian culture, and she borrowed from old vampire lore, and then she made a lot of it up, and so that was fun because it was nothing like anything I'd done before, and especially the ability to have the Strigoi, who are just evil, and there's no they're just misunderstood. No, they're just feral, and I loved being able to create actual monsters, and have the kind of threat and the kind of villain that just will come at you on a primal level, and not be feeling where's the redemption arc for this character. The other thing is that vampires, to me, growing up, were those seductor, predatory creatures, who always sort of were luring in the young maiden, and then between Lestat and then Twilight and Vampire Diaries, it sort of evolved into the misunderstood, brooding, lonely boy, which of course I love, and yet the further society moves along, the less
alluring.
Alluring, that is.
Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect word. The less alluring that sort of sensual, predatory being is, it's kind of creepy through a lot of people's eyes. And so what I loved about, like, specifically Legacies was we got to kind of blow the trope of the traditional vampire wide open and have our feminist vampire in MG who didn't ever want to take advantage of a woman to his own, his own virginity. But it's fun to reimagine the lore as society evolves. And to be able in this particular show to tell a story about classism felt really of the moment and right for us to do that right now.
Oh, wow. And also something else that I love is that, I mean, between, Vampire Diaries and Vampire Academy and Roswell, New Mexico and all the things you've worked on, a lot of them were young adult books, best-selling books. I'm assuming you're a big reader.
Yes.
The fact that you're adapting these books into shows. So how do you, first of all, choose what kind of books to actually adapt, and what are you reading now that you feel like would be great to bring to screen next?
Well, the sad thing about being a busy TV writer is that you stop reading as much. I read now basically once a year on vacation, and it's heartbreaking, but I do. I take a pile of books, whether it's an actual pile or a series of books on my Kindle, and I set out to sit by the pool and read as much as I can. So that's January, so I will have to answer the question about what am I reading later. But yeah, I read so much as a kid, so much, and I prefer to work with stories that I know I like as opposed to trying to come up with stories that are just born completely out of my own head. I personally one day would like to write a young adult novel or a young adult series. That's
absolutely.
on my bucket list. I like being able to say, I can see this world, I can see the characters in this world. And in the case of Vampire Diaries, that's all it was characters in a world, and then that's what we used, and then everything else was fresh. In the case of Vampire Academy, it's such a unique and interesting world, and so well told that I get to have the fun of building around it, which as a writer is it's a fun challenge, because you've got so much great stuff to work with that then it's just about, how do I make this for television? The book I just got the rights to, which I'm really excited about, is We Were Liars by E. Lockhart, and I cannot wait to bring that to the screen, because that's one of those books you don't mess with, but yet it needs more story in order to become a whole season of television. It needs more than what's in there.
I know you have
so you've got to
book too,
and Family of Liars, yeah.
So are you guys going to kind of mix them together a little bit?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of keep the two stories separate, but we're going to use the first season, which is like the We Were Liars season, to really introduce and build out the aunts and the mom, Penny, Carrie, and Bess, those characters, so that they're fully realized women and fully realized characters in season 1, so that when we go back and tell the story of their childhood in season 2, you really will be rooting for them and wanting to know more about them.
Going off of We Were Liars, I feel like that's a very different type of story than things like Vampire Academy and Vampire Diaries, where you're telling stories of supernatural beings. This is kind of diving into this deep, very dark family mystery, and can we trust these people? Who's reliable, who's not?
On one hand, in that it's having to tell the kind of stories I always want to tell, which is romance and family drama and friendship drama, without being able to rely on the genre tricks, which is if this seems boring, drop a werewolf attack into it. If you want to zhuzh up this conversation between two people, have them do a magic spell. There's so many tricks that make writing easier when you're working in the genre space. But that being said, there is a mystery at the core of We Were Liars, and that is sort of the substitute for a genre moment, in that you're always going to feel that tension represented by the question of what happens and what is the solution to this mystery in that story. So it's not like I'm writing completely without a net. So I mean, what is it with a net? What do you do without a net?
You fall.
Falling without a net?
You fall with that.
Flying without a net? Anyway, I still have some gimmicks in there that I can rely on in a good way.
And do you already have thoughts on casting choices?
No, nothing. I because they're young, these characters, they're like young teenagers. It's a whole new group of people that I probably haven't even ever seen before. So that'll be fun.
With respect to Vampire Academy, which element do you think you would enjoy?
I feel like I would be most excited about being a fire user.
Right?
I don't know, there's just something about, like, there's something so Justice League or like Wonder Twin about being like,
Holding a fireball, right?
Bouncing the fireball back and forth and burning somebody up, they make you
The
mad.
element of power.
Yeah,
Like,
although
what
I did
woman
sort
wouldn't
of
want
love-
more of that?
When we shoot this stuff, we shoot it without any visual effects.
Yeah.
Right? So I finally saw Mia throwing water at somebody. I was just about to be like, at an episode you haven't seen yet. I finally saw the visual effect cut in, and it's so cool.
Yeah.
Because before it was just she does one of these, and then the guy goes flying back, and I'm like, okay, water user, big whoop. But when you actually see it with the FX in it, it is very cool. So maybe I'm like, maybe I'm a fire and water combo.
Okay.
Which you can't
That
be. I
sounds
guess I'd have to
awesome.
be a spirit
Steam
user.
user?
Yeah, a steam user.
You're a steam user.
Perfect.
Done.
Perfect.